They laughed at her rookie status. Then her secret ink blew their minds. She walked onto Fort Braxton in faded jeans and scuffed boots, every smirk from those polished recruits carving ice in her chest. Then their champion, Carter Williams, snatched her by the collar and tore her jacket in a mocking flourish. Laughter exploded, then bled to silence. Colonel Peterson froze mid-stride, his face draining of color as he snapped to attention. Because etched across Maya Johnson's back wasn't a random tattoo, it was the symbol of a ghost program no one believed existed. Tonight, they will discover some secrets refused to stay buried. What happens next will destroy everything they thought they knew. If you've ever been dismissed, belittled, or overlooked, hit that subscribe button now, because today, you're not just watching a story, you're joining a fight for justice. Like this video if you're ready to stand up against unfairness, and drop a comment below with your worst "they never saw me coming" moment. Stay with us. What Maya reveals next will haunt those who thought they were untouchable. Maya Johnson had never felt more out of place in her life. At 22, she traded her worn denim jacket for a uniform that still hung loose on her frame, the sleeves too long, the collar frayed. Born in a cramped apartment above her mother's beauty shop in Newark, she'd learned early how the world judged a person by the cut of their clothes and the brand on their feet. Here at Fort Braxton, an imposing expanse of gray barracks and iron gates, those judgments felt amplified 1,000-fold. She remembered the look on the drill instructor's face when he measured her boots against regulation standards, scuffed secondhand, barely holding together. He barked something about waste of government property, and every recruit within earshot saw the disdain in his eyes. That disdain became a daily soundtrack in the echoed laughter of Carter Williams and his clique. In Brooke Sanders's hushed giggles as she live-streamed her arrival to thousands of followers. Even in the silent side glances of quiet Derek Nguyen, who looked at her like she belonged to another world. Maya's only lifeline was her little sister's framed photo tucked into her locker, an anxious 9-year-old with a crooked brace on her leg and a grin that wouldn't quit. Every struggle here, every insult, every drip of humiliation pressed her back against that memory. She was here for something greater than herself. She wasn't just a recruit chasing benefits or bragging rights. She was a daughter carrying her sister's hope, a young woman determined to reshape the narrative that told her she didn't belong. Across the parade ground, the buzz of fresh recruits crackled like static. Carter Williams stood at the front of his group, his polo shirt crisp, his boots polished until they gleamed. He joked about how his Army legacy guaranteed special treatment. Nearby, Brooke angled for the perfect selfie, her phone screen glowing as she filtered every frame to Insta-ready perfection. Derek Nguyen hovered wary but loyal, his collegiate athletic honors incongruous here among the starched uniforms. The morning sun carved long shadows between the drill sergeants stationed like sentries against the horizon. Staff Sergeant Wright's silhouette cut across the asphalt, his voice slicing the air with precise commands. Align. Eyes front. Show me posture. Maya slid into rank at the end of the line, counting breaths to steady a tremor that threatened to show. Each breath reminded her of 1,000 hours spent running city streets, at dawn lifting scrap weights in a basement gym, studying every movement until her body remembered strength better than fear. Sergeant First Class Campbell circled the ranks, clipboard in hand, her hawkish gaze sweeping every face, as though she could read their past in their eyes. Maya watched the way her lips tightened into a thin line, the way her boots dug into the asphalt at each recruit's misstep. No favoritism here, only performance under pressure. And Maya had prepared for this moment since her mother's illness forced her to forego college scholarships. Every insult, every boot camp meme about poor recruits was fuel she carefully banked, ready to ignite. As the sergeants barked orders and recruits scrambled to obey, the air vibrated with tension and possibility. For Maya, this was more than a physical test. It was an arena of judgment where she planned to prove that determination speaks louder than designer labels, that resilience can outlast privilege, and that beneath those faded boots beat the heart of someone born to endure and to overcome. Maya's first real test arrived at the quartermaster's desk. The hulking soldier behind the counter, Corporal Gibbs, glanced at her with the impatience of a man who had seen too many recruits waste government property. "What size?" he barked. When Maya answered medium, his eyes flicked to her faded jacket before he tossed a uniform onto the table with a grunt. The shirt was 3 sizes too big, the pants hanging in baggy folds. She reached for boots, only to have him shove a scuffed pair with frayed laces into her hands. "These'll do," he muttered. As she stepped back, Gibbs rolled his eyes at his assistant. "That one won't last a week." Maya ignored the sting of humiliation she'd worn worse on her mother's shop floor. Instead, she squared her shoulders and met Gibbs's gaze, letting her calm determination speak louder than his scorn. Around her, other recruits exchanged smirks, Brooke Sanders filming the moment for her followers. Carter Williams elbowing Derek Nguyen with a smug score, one for the rich kids, while quiet Mason Hall made sympathetic noises. The next morning, 500 on the dot, Staff Sergeant Wright's scream of reveille shredded the barracks' silence. Maya snapped awake, rolling off her bunk with the precision of someone who'd rehearsed panic 1,000 times. In the fragile half-light, she found uniform boots and webbing, without missing a beat, her lockdown time 90 seconds to spare. Others tumbled in a jumbled race. Lucas Green yelped when he kicked off a mismatched boot. Sophie Evans' frantically braided hair she'd forgotten regulations demanded off her collar. By the time Maya formed up at the line, faces were pale breaths, ragged, but her chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, her eyes locked forward. On the parade ground, Wright's drill echoed off the concrete light jog to PT Field. Move it, Maya settled into a middle-of-the-pack rhythm. Every footfall, a quiet reminder of 5 a.m. runs through Newark streets. Carter surged ahead, Derek charging alongside their college muscles flexing with competitive pride. Brooke gasped at Maya's passing nod. She hadn't noticed the silent girl at all until now. At the push-up station, Sergeant First Class Campbell checked her stopwatch. "Williams," she snapped. Carter dropped with mechanical grace, knocking out 68 perfect reps. Derek managed 64, his wrestling background visible in every straining fiber. When Campbell finally called Richardson, Maya's face registering only a flicker of surprise, Maya slid into position, her body a rigid plank. No flinch, no rush, just unbroken metronomic reps. At time, Campbell's brow shot up. 79, she announced. Whispered gasps rippled through the recruits Maya had outscored 2 college athletes with effortless precision. Carter's jaw clenched as a seed of doubt lodged in his pride. Over the next exercise, sit-ups, pull-ups, and a timed mile, Maya stayed in the top 5, never the fastest, never the flashiest, but always among the best. Carter's table talk at breakfast crackled with resentment. "Where did she train?" he asked Derek. Mason shrugged. "No records, no files." Brooke tossed her hair. "Creep factors off the charts." Sophie Evans, ever the peacemaker, whispered, "Maybe she just works harder than we do." They all turned as Maya entered the mess hall alone, her silence louder than any debate. That afternoon, tactical movement drills tested more than strength. Fire teams of 4 had to advance across an open field under simulated enemy fire. Carter seized command of his clique himself, Derek Lucas, and Chris Anderson bounding forward with textbook aggression. They coordinated well, but their footprints cut wide swaths through the grass, their guns swinging in broad arcs. When Maya's turn came, her teammates Mason, Sophie, Lucas looked to her without hesitation. Wright singled her out. "You lead Richardson." She nodded once low and controlled, then whispered assignments in under 2 seconds. "Lucas, point, stay low. Sophie, overwatch on the left flank. Mason, rear security. Move on my signal." Their advance was a study in silent efficiency, compressed spacing near soundless footfalls, minimal gestures. Maya counted down with her fingers, 3, 2, 1, then signaled. They flowed like water through the field, circling obstacles, reading wind, anticipating imaginary tracer rounds. At the objective, Wright's amplified voice crackled, "Outstanding." "That's how it's done." A hush fell over the other teams. Maya's ordinary squad had outperformed the stars. Carter's glare flickered between triumph and something darker fear. That night, the barracks held its breath for the weapons maintenance test. Under harsh floodlights, recruits disassembled M4 carbines into dozens of tiny components. Carter approached the bench with confidence. Derek hit the parts with brute force. Brooke trembled, barely able to remove her pin. When Maya set to work, her hands moved in fluid arcs each spring, and pin slid free, every chamber riffle wiped without hesitation. She reassembled the rifle in half, the allotted time running a finger along the barrel to ensure nothing rattled. Campbell watched from 3 paces back, her lips pursed. "Show me that again." Maya repeated the process flawlessly. "Where'd you learn this?" Campbell asked. "Practice," Maya replied softly. Campbell's silent nod registered the first official acknowledgement that something about Maya didn't fit the record. The true test came at dusk night navigation through the forest. Paired with Lucas Green, still jittery from earlier drills, Maya guided him by the light of only one dim flashlight. Bearing 270-300 meters, she whispered, "Follow my footsteps, lean left at the oak." Lucas swallowed his fear and complied. Together they threaded through shadowed hollows and rocky streams, without map or GPS. 20 minutes into the mission, Lucas's earlier panic was a distant memory. He trusted Maya's voice more than his own compass. They punched every waypoint, then returned 15 minutes ahead of Carter's team, whose bright headlamps had given away their course. As Lucas emerged into the beam of the command post, his grin was the first real smile Maya had seen all day. Back in the barracks, Carter's frustration erupted. Leaning against the lockers, he spat out accusations. "She's sandbagging us on purpose. No one's that versatile without special ops training." Derek's eyes glinted. "Maybe she's prior service?" Brooke chimed in. "What if she's playing us?" Sophie crossed her arms. "Or maybe we just aren't giving her a chance." An argument spiraled until Mason, normally reserved, raised his voice. "Whatever she is, she's better than any of us at everything. And she's been here laughing with us the whole time." The tension crackled like a live wire as recruits circled one another in a storm of suspicion, envy, and grudging respect. But Maya sat apart, her gaze distant, as she polished her rifle with the same meticulous touch she'd shown that afternoon. The debates and doubts washed over her like static. She let them talk themselves out, knowing that tonight's confrontation wasn't personal. It was the tipping point of weeks of injustice. Around midnight, she slipped out of the barracks and pressed her palm against the cool bricks of the armory wall. In the dim glow of a single lamp, she traced the faded outline of her father's old unit patch, sewed inside her jacket. Each stitch held a promise she would expose the lies, rebalance the field, and claim a victory no one would forget. Tomorrow's urban warfare simulation would be decisive. But for now, the forest had spoken, the bullets had landed, and every underqualified recruit knew Maya Johnson was a problem they weren't prepared for. And the secret she carried on her back was about to ignite a reckoning that would leave no corner of Fort Braxton untouched. Maya lay awake under the dim red light of her barracks, heart still pounding from the night nav success and the tension in the hall. She closed her eyes and replayed every slight from Gibbs's scorn to Carter's clenched jaw after her 89-second push-up record. It wasn't enough to be the best. She needed to force Fort Braxton to acknowledge its own prejudice. By dawn, the gears of her plan were already turning. She slipped into the armory pre-inspection, her uniform perfectly pressed, boots polished despite last night's field exercise. Staff Sergeant Wright barked orders at the next platoon, oblivious to Maya's presence. She drilled herself on every piece of equipment she might need, not bullets or explosives, but data. During breakfast, Maya sat near the comms terminal under the guise of checking her email. While the others scarfed down eggs and toast, she fed the base's open access network feeds into her encrypted thumb drive. Drill schedules, instructor patrol routes, even the live stream URL Brooke had set to public. By the time the platoon dispersed to their morning classroom rotations, Maya had mapped every footstep the drill sergeants would take over the next 12 hours, and the exact windows in which Carter's clique felt invincible. Next came the weapon staging area. She meticulously removed the chamber pin on her issued rifle, swapping it with the spotless spare she'd hidden under her mattress. No malfunctions would derail her plan. Then she slipped out to the supply lockers, photographing the ID tags on Carter's gear and Brooks' social media approved helmet cam. Every face, every piece of kit became a puzzle piece she cataloged in her mind. By mid-morning, the recruits were briefed on the urban warfare drill, simulated hostages, civilian role players, and 2 teams going head-to-head. Carter swaggered over, clapping Maya on the shoulder. "You ready to finally prove yourself?" he sneered. Maya's lips curved into a polite smile. "I've been ready since day one." As the teams gathered in the mock village, Maya's squad slipped into the alleyways unnoticed. She had pre-scouted the layout via floor plans and drone footage Brooke had streamed the week before. "Lucas Overwatch on that second story," Maya whispered, pointing at a window with a chipped shutter. "Sophie disabled the comms node in the supply shed 5 steps to your left." While Carter's team blasted through the front door in textbook breach and clear fashion, Maya's group circled behind, patched through their earpieces so only they would hear. The moment Carter's grenades detonated, Maya gave the signal, and Sophie's silenced pistol bit through the speaker wires, plunging the building's internal comms into static. The real pivot came when Maya triggered the hidden live stream Brooke had mockingly set up for best fails of boot camp. As Carter's team celebrated their breach on camera, Maya hijacked the stream, cutting Brooke's filter settings and replacing her goofy smile with the cold reality of every insult Carter had lobbed footage of Gibbs tossing Maya's boots aside. Brooke's mocking poor recruit captions Derek's uneasy glances. At the same time, she activated the armory's intercom system, broadcasting live to every drill sergeant, "Attention all personnel. You have judged a recruit by her clothes, then by her performance. Now judge her by her truth." The mock terrorist holding the hostages froze. So did Carter, who watched in disbelief as his carefully choreographed assault became a viral confession of his own arrogance. Drill instructors pivoted from laughing at Brooks' failed selfie to staring at the security monitors in shock. No one moved. Maya took that moment of stunned silence to slip into the building through the rear vent she'd reconnoitered. Inside, she found the emergency override panel, a red lever used only in real crises, and pulled it. The alarm blared. Lights strobed. All simulations stopped, instantly replaced by genuine panic. In the chaos, Maya guided her team through the civilian role players, ushering them to safety, while Carter's team floundered under real stress. Sergeant Campbell stormed in eyes ablaze. "What the hell is going on?" she demanded. Maya held up her badge number. "The real crisis is that you trained for everything but this accountability." Campbell hesitated as drills dissolved into questioning recruits and live video feeds flooding every screen. The intercom crackled with Maya's final message. "Your judgment failed me. My record proved you wrong. Now prove you right by owning your failures." Within minutes, Commander Griffin and Colonel Peterson raced to the mock village's command center. Carter stumbled in helmet askew, trying to salvage authority. Maya stood at the center, calm in flight-ready gear, the tattoo on her back visible through her unzipped uniform. Its myth, now undeniable fact. Griffin's voice echoed across the room. "Maya Richardson, report to my office immediately." But before Maya moved, she addressed the assembled recruits and instructors. "This is what happens when you judge without evidence. This is what happens when you refuse to see potential beneath prejudice. We're here to learn to serve, but first, we must acknowledge the truth." As the stunned silence stretched, Maya collected her thumb drive and stepped out of the comm center, leaving behind a base forever altered. Her plan had unfolded with precision intelligence and justice, exposing every hidden bias, every taunt, and every flinch of doubt. When the gates of Fort Braxton closed that evening, they did so on a reality that no uniform could conceal. Maya Johnson had turned the system's own structure into her stage, and the world had been forced to watch her truth play out in real time. The reckoning had begun. The moment the alarm shrieked, Maya's team sprang into action. Sophie grabbed the first civilian role player's arm, her voice calm. "This way. Follow us, eyes down." Lucas formed a human shield, with his body ushering the group through a side corridor she'd scouted earlier. Mason jammed the door's electronic lock with a paperclip-thin shim, buying precious seconds as echoes of boots and shouts grew louder. In the main hall, Carter's team panicked. Brooke fumbled her cam, its battery dying in her sweaty palm. Carter barked orders, his voice cracking. Clear the hallway move, but the corridor split into two narrow passages, exactly as Maya had planned. Carter hurled a grenade into the wrong corridor, the blast fizzing harmlessly against a reinforced wall. His men dove for cover as dust and shockwaves rattled ceiling panels. Maya signaled Sophie, who triggered a remote switch beneath her sleeve. Floodlights snapped on overhead, bathing the hall in harsh white glare. Carter squinted against the glare, angrily ripping off his helmet. Who set these lights? We're blind. At that moment, Lucas lobbed a smoke canister behind them, its plume filling the cavernous space with thick gray clouds. Carter coughed, fumbling for his comms, but his radio crackled only with static. Sophie had already severed the comms node earlier. Isolated, disoriented, his team scattered like prey without a pack. Maya led her squad through a maintenance hatch. She'd pried open tiny digits of doubt etched on her face as she emerged into the village square. Crowds of civilian extras froze in mid-drama, wide-eyed. The mock terrorists, actors until minutes ago, dropped their cues and stared at Maya's uniform, her weapon slung but ready. Over the loudspeaker, Campbell's voice slashed through the smoke. All non-essential personnel, evacuate immediately. The condemnation in her tone was unmistakable. Maya raised her fist. We're all here. No one more essential than the truth. From the rooftops, drone cameras whirred as Brooke's live feed flickered back on this time, relaying Maya's face to every screen in the base. Carter watched in horror as insults he'd lobbed at Maya, captured weeks earlier, flashed on screen: poor recruit, waste of boots, laughingstock. His chest tightened, heat flooding his cheeks. Maya stepped forward, voice measured. You judge me by my jacket, by my boots, by my silence. She peeled back her jacket sleeve to reveal the Black Hawk tattoo that curved along her spine, Sullivan's emblem. The audience gasped as the camera zoomed in on the intricate wingspan and cryptic symbols. Carter's face went ashen. Derek staggered back against a wall. Brooke dropped her phone. Maya continued. This is the mark of every recruit whose potential you crushed with stereotypes. Today, it's mine. She swept her gaze across the stunned ranks of drill sergeants and recruits alike, daring anyone to meet her eyes. For a heartbeat, only the alarms and drones filled the air. Then, as if rehearsed, every instructor pivoted their uniforms sturdy against the chaos. Sergeant Campbell advanced toward Maya, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Explain yourself, she demanded. Maya's response was a slow smile. You taught me how to follow orders. I'm here to teach you how to lead with integrity. Behind her, Lucas guided the civilian extras to safety, while Sophie snapped the lock on the supply shed, sealing away the tools that Carter's team had hoarded for priority use. The final piece clicked into place when Mason activated the village's PA system. Maya's voice boomed, "Justice isn't given, it's claimed. And I'm taking it back for every recruit you ever broke." The thunderous roar of applause was unexpected. A handful of recruits, those who had trained alongside Maya, stepped forward, their own doubts replaced by conviction. Derek's eyes welled as he nodded Carter's closest allies, turning in solidarity. Even Brooke lifted her phone again, tears blurring her once perfect filter. Command vehicles screeched to a halt at the village perimeter. Commander Griffin emerged, her posture rigid as steel. She locked eyes with Maya, then surveyed the assembled recruits, the instructors, the impromptu audience of peers. In that charged silence, Maya holstered her rifle and offered Griffin a steady salute. Griffin's hand hesitated at her brow, then dropped into a crisp return. No one spoke as the smoke cleared. Maya's message had been delivered not with gunfire, but with planning, compassion, and unshakable moral force. Each step of her retaliation had been calibrated to expose inequity and empower the powerless without a single fatality or broken rule beyond her own meticulously engineered loopholes. As the final echoes of alarms faded, a new sound rose, the steady clip-clop of boots marching in formation, followers of Maya's example ready to rewrite Fort Braxton's story. And somewhere in the command post, Brooks' live stream continued broadcasting Maya Johnson's quiet revolution to a base and a world that would never judge another recruit by her jacket again. Silence settled over the mock village as dust motes drifted through the harsh floodlights. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Sergeant Campbell exhaled her broad shoulders, relaxing for the first time in weeks. That was brilliant, she admitted, her voice low. Around her, drill sergeants exchanged glances of grudging respect, reeling from the realization that every stereotype they'd relied on had been shattered. Carter Williams stood at the edge of the square chest, heaving helmet dangling from one hand. He stared at Maya as if seeing her for the first time, the arrogance drained from his features and replaced by awe and something like shame. His squad hovered behind him, hesitant to cheer or demur. Finally, Derek and Nguyen stepped forward, pressing a hand into Carter's shoulder. "We were wrong," Derek said. "All of us." Carter nodded, once eyes fixed on the hawk tattoo peeking from Maya's uniform collar. Commander Griffin emerged from the command vehicle, her boots crunching on the gravel. She paused, taking in the scene-trained soldiers guiding terrified role players to safety, a half-dozen recruits standing at attention around Maya, as if she were their lieutenant and Carter's team, once the elite now humbled. Griffin removed her cap and approached Maya, her expression unreadable. Private Johnson Griffin said, her tone measured. "You've done more than complete your training. You've forced us all to confront our own failures." She hesitated, then tucked a silver badge into Maya's chest pocket. The emblem gleamed against the matte fabric. "For extraordinary leadership and moral courage, I'm awarding you the Soldier's Cross." A murmur rippled through the recruits. Brooke Sanders, wiping tears from her cheeks, lifted her phone again, not for a selfie this time, but to capture Maya's steady salute. Mason Hall let out a quiet whoop that was echoed by Lucas Green, whose earlier panic had been replaced by newfound confidence. Sophie Evans simply beamed pride, lighting her face. In the aftermath, Carter stayed at Maya's side, voice hushed. "Thank you," he said, "for showing me what it means to be a soldier." Maya nodded, her gaze drifting toward the horizon, where the first streaks of dawn were already lighting the sky. "We did this together," she replied. "Every one of us has to own it." Weeks later, Fort Braxton's training roster bore a new entry, Justice Integration Program. Maya's name topped the list of instructors alongside Sergeant Campbell and Staff Sergeant Wright. The base newspaper ran a front-page story, "Boot Camp Revolutionized by Recruits' Steely Resolve." Carter and Derek led small groups of fresh recruits through the obstacle course, recounting Maya's strategy as a blueprint for true leadership. In the mess hall, the old click tables were gone. Now recruits sat in mixed squads, sharing gear and swapping tips. Secondhand boots passed from veteran to newcomer, untouched by scorn. And on the wall above the command tent, a large banner displayed the hawk emblem in bold black lines captioned, "Strength knows no uniform." At night, the barracks echoed with quiet conversations, not about grades or final scores, but about integrity, accountability, and what it truly meant to serve. Maya Johnson stood in the doorway, watching her fellow soldiers prepare for lights out. She touched the photo of her sister taped inside her locker, no longer a silent reminder of struggle, but a testament to how far they'd all come. Fort Braxton was never the same. The echoes of that day rippled through every training rotation, every drill, every lecture on military history. And whenever a new recruit questioned their worth, a sergeant would slip off their cap point to the banner and say, "Here talent is born from courage, not labels." Maya's revolution had done more than earn her a medal. It had rewritten the story of an entire institution. And as the gates closed each night, the legacy of her justice, hard-won, fiercely defended, stood guard over every soldier who dared to rise above prejudice and become the leader they were meant to be. And that was Maya Johnson's story, a single recruit who refused to be defined by her boots or her past, and instead rewrote the rules for everyone at Fort Braxton. If you've ever felt sidelined or underestimated, share this video with someone who needs to see how courage can shatter the toughest walls. Hit the like button. If Maya's stand inspired you, and comment below, when have you faced your own boot camp of doubt, and how did you rise above it? Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell, because next week we've got another unbelievable true life story of justice and redemption you won't want to miss. Thanks for watching, and remember, real strength isn't given, it's claimed.